now be a moment of silent prayer and meditation. May we be seated? Order, honorable members. Honorable members, before we proceed with today's business, I wish to make the following announcements. The vacancy which occurred in the National Assembly owing to the resignation of Dr. D.T. George has been filled by nomination of Mr. B.R. Toffan with effect from 6 October 2015. You are welcome. The vacancy which occurred in the National Assembly owing to the resignation of Mr. S.J. Masango has been filled by the nomination of Mr. K.P. Robertson with effect from 6 October 2015. Lastly, I also wish to announce that the vacancy which occurred in the National Assembly due to the passing of Mr. K.S. Mubu has been filled by the nomination of Ms. B.S. Masango with effect from 6 October. The members have made and subscribed to the oath and affirmation in the office of the Speaker. You are welcome to Parliament. Honorable members, I will now ask the Secretary to read the first and second orders of the day.
Speaker, before you do that, may I please
Order.
report on a point of procedure?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Chairperson, the budget review and recommendation reports, the very last one was actually only finalized a few minutes ago. This BRRR process is crucial in the component of the nation's fiscal framework. And we find it terribly disturbing that in light of the higher education funding crisis that has plagued our country, one of the portfolios that only finished their report a few minutes ago was the Department of Higher Education. Your office will know that because of this, in actual fact, the DA has today written to the Speaker asking for a debate of national importance regarding the funding crisis. Chairperson, our concern is that this rushed timeline has done nothing but diminish the parliamentary importance and oversight role and put extreme pressure on both Minister Nene, very unfairly, as well as Parliament, and it takes away the country's ability to trust our oversight mechanism. Speaker, I ask that, with the greatest of respect, that you refer this problem of the BRRR reports not being completed with adequate time to the Chair of Chairs, and that it be reported at tomorrow's NAPC committee meeting. I thank you.
Order. Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Just to indicate, I've noted you, Honorable Shibambo. I'll just respond to the Honorable Member. Indeed, I appreciate the concern that you have raised, and it is a matter that was discussed in the NAPC when we were advised of the date of the tabling of the medium budget policy statement. And we noted that some committees would have been under pressure in considering such reports. So that matter was deliberated on. However, we agreed that we'll continue. I will take your advice and the request that the matter be referred to the Chair of Chairs, and we will do so. And unfortunately, he's out of the country in the Interparliamentary Union meeting, and therefore we may not be able to engage on the matter with him in the NAPC meeting tomorrow. So I just want you to note, and also to indicate that I have indeed received the request both from the EFF, the DA, and the IFP regarding a request that they would like the Speaker to consider for the debate on the matter of the universities next week. So the Speaker is considering, and we have responded as such to the relevant parties that have made such a request. Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Shibambo.
Thank you very much, House Chair. I'm rising specifically on Rule 104, which speaks to a matter of urgent public importance. And just to assist you, it says that a private member may on any sitting day request the Speaker in writing to allow a matter of urgent public importance to be discussed by this House. We wrote a letter yesterday, we wrote a letter again today, within the framework of the rules, to say that we need, as Parliament, to take a thorough discussion on the fees must fall movement and the provision of free education, the BRRR process, which the Minister of Finance is going to speak to. We know, because we're in the locked up meeting of the MTBPS process, that there is no provision of free education there. And we think that this Parliament must go back, all the portfolio committees, all the standing committees, to discuss the urgent matter. Students are not writing exams now. Exams have been postponed. It's a matter of national importance.
Order.
And it's urgent. We're rising to say that this MTBPS process must be postponed until we have found a solution as public representatives on how we're going to make sure that all fees fall, that we provide free quality education, because if we become ignorant to that process, it means students are not going to write exams, universities are going to be disrupted. And we're rising because the process which the minister is starting today is going to lead to the adoption of 2 acts, the Adjustment Appropriation Bill and the Division of Revenue Bill, which is the legal instrument for Parliament to allocate money for expenditure on any item. So we think that this MTBPS must be postponed today. We go and review all the budgets that are there, consider some of the rollover monies from the departments and allocate to higher education so that we can fund free quality education for all students. That is the concrete proposal that we're raising, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Shibambo. Indeed, we received your letter at 1 p.m. today with the request that a postponement should occur. But as honorable members, you would appreciate that there's a particular process that defines how we deal with the MTBPS. And we also would like to advise that at the moment today, what will be happening is the tabling of the documents as you have referred them. Those documents are then referred to the Appropriation Committee for discussion, which allows a process for all parties to influence once again. And after which they will come back, the Appropriation Committee will come back to this House on the 20th of November to make their recommendations, after which the House will debate and then agree. So the room is not closed in terms of influencing the budget process. I appeal to members that we are allowed to proceed, because if again, in terms of the framework, we lose this process of today of the tabling, it would affect the way in which we have to deal with the budget as it is legislated. Thank you, Member. Honorable Matias.
Madam Chair, House Chair, we, and through the Chief Whip of the EFF, we are standing up and say the Parliament must consider the state of crisis that higher education finds itself today, right? And that state of crisis cannot be business as usual. And we are making a submission here. The BRRR process ought to consider and to take into account the crisis that the higher education faces today. And we are making a concrete proposal that we retreat, because it cannot be business as usual. It will be pointless, however, House Chair, to continue as if it's business as usual when the government, whose only response to requests such as this is utter arrogance and dismissal of proposals that are made by the opposition parties, and use utter disrespect and disdain to the demands, especially as legitimate as the demands made by the students. And such government, and you and I would agree, does not deserve the respect of the citizens. We are saying, whilst we are in the position to address the situation, all committees retreat and find a permanent working solution to address the funding of higher institutions. Otherwise, there cannot be any sensible business that this house can sit and pursue today.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I recognize Honorable Khatebe, Honorable Shandu, and Honorable Singh.
Honorable Chairperson, I'm rising on Rule 68, the rule of anticipation. We know very well that today in this House, the Minister is going to deliver the MPPTS statement today. And then that particular statement is going to include the issue of funding all the departments within the country. So I'll appeal to you, to the chairpersonship, that we allow the Minister to deliver this thing as the process of dealing with all the budget will be done during the process of the Standing Committee on Finance. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Shandu.
Honorable House Chair, I stand in support of my colleagues. This is the only opportunity as a House of Public Representatives that we have. This is our only shot to show our citizens that we are not only elected, but we have the sympathies of their feelings and their needs at heart. That is one of the reasons why we are proposing that this process of today be postponed. We have had plenty of opportunities before, and we have seen how the government of the day respond to the needs and the wishes of the people. We're asking that once and for all, let this process carry no dead body. Let this process self-correct and self-correct here. That's all we're asking for.
Honorable Member, thank you very much. Maybe before I allow Honorable Singh, I just want to advise members that indeed, as Honorable Shibambo raised on Rule 104, Rule 104 actually, subsection 2, states that the request of the matter of public importance be made to the Speaker before 12, on days on which this House sits at 14 hours. 14:15, as it is stated in the book right now. I just want to indicate, as I said here, that I received the letter at 1 p.m. But we have also consulted Honorable Shibambo. Order. Order, honorable members. Honorable members, order. Honorable Shibambo, can you take a seat?
But can I address you on what you're saying there now?
Yes, you will address me when I finish.
Okay, please,
Thank
please,
you.
please.
Order, honorable members. I was just saying that indeed my office received that letter from the EFF, but having considered the letter and consulted as well with the Speaker, we agreed that in terms of the legislative process, it is not possible to postpone this tabling. However, as I indicated earlier, we had already received a request from EFF yesterday, from the DA and from the IFP on the nature of the crisis and the request that there be a debate in the House next week. But I was also clarifying to members that the process of tabling does not mean we approve today. This gives us a framework to know what is in the budget. We will still influence the process in the committee where these documents shall be referred to. And on the 20th, it's only the time that the House will then deliberate. So there is no room that is closed. And I think we all appreciate the sensitivity and the concerns that have been raised by students and the calls that have been made, and also the interventions of the Minister of Education, Higher Education in trying to engage the stakeholders. We know that universities are ongoing with their processes of negotiations, and I would appeal to members that we allow this process because in itself, it gives us that opportunity to engage when we see what is there in the figures. I will now recognize Honorable Singh. Honorable Shibambo.
But Chairperson.
Honorable Shibambo.
On order.
Order,
on a
Honorable
point
Shib-
of order.
Honorable Shibambo.
Can I raise on a point of order?
Okay,
It's
you,
allowed in terms
it's,
of the
at the
rules.
moment, it's Honorable Singh
But can I
before you.
rise on a point of order? Because it's allowed in terms of the rules.
Honorable
You
Shibambo.
have just misrepresented reality. We sent you a letter yesterday. And then today we reminded you that you have sent you a letter yesterday.
Honorable
we
Shibambo, can you
reminded
please
you-
take your seat?
But I'm rising on a point of order.
There is another member who
We
had
sent you a
arisen
letter-
before you.
No, but there's a point of order. Point of order means that you must
Honorable-
interrupt the member who was
Honorable
supposed
member,
to speak.
Honorable Singh also
But
raised
allow
on the
us
point
to
of
raise
order.
a point of order because
Honorable
it's allowed in
Shibambo.
terms of the rules.
Honorable Shibambo, I had said to you, you will raise your point of order, but allow another member to also express his own point of order. So can you please take your seat?
Please,
Thank
you
you
must
very much.
recognize me so that I can clarify you
Honorable
on a point
member,
of order. Please.
Can you please take your seat? Your point of order can precede other people's point of order who have also raised them. Just take your seat. Honorable Singh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, for your indulgence. I did rise on a point of order earlier on, and I appreciate the fact that you gave me my due recognition. Honorable Chairperson, as the IFP, we do recognize the crisis that has engulfed the higher education sector. And as you correctly indicated to this House, we had written to you requesting that this matter be debated as a matter of urgent public importance in terms of Rule 104. And you've correctly indicated that other parties have done so as well. However, having said that, Madam Chairperson, the proposal that you make that we continue listening to the Honorable Minister of Finance presenting his budget today is a correct one. Only a few members that sit on Finance Committee and Appropriations Committee are privy to what the Minister is going to be saying to us just now in a few minutes' time, because it's a lock-up session. We need the benefit of knowing what the Minister is going to be tabling in terms of a budget so that we can consider it in appropriate committees and make our recommendations. The recommendation could be that half the money that he's proposing for Department X be sent to the Department of Higher Education so that we can address the crisis in education. So therefore, Chairperson, we believe that we must have the benefit of listening to the Honorable Minister of Finance, table his budget so that we can consider it appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Singh. Honorable Shibambo, followed by Honorable Boy, and followed by Honorable Maimane.
House Chair, as a matter of fact, we wrote a letter yesterday raising the issue of Rule 104 of an urgent matter that have to be discussed. And today we reminded you that the MTBPS process, which we are going to start with the presentation by the Minister today, has got direct impact on this process. We have been in the Higher Education Portfolio Committee, and we know that the BRRR report that has been adopted today did not take into consideration the issue of the money that must be given so that fees fall everywhere. And the concrete proposal that we're making is that we are aware, well, we're privy, but we are aware that there is rollover budgets that come from all other departments, and portfolio committees must sit to consider this urgent issue which is being raised by students, to say that let us, all of us, dedicate a certain portion of our budgets to the Department of Higher Education so that we're able to finance free quality education for all. It will require all of us. The Appropriations Committee is just going to discuss and consider what comes from the BRRR process. But we should, as members of Parliament, take into cognizance what has been raised by students and understand that this is a movement which, if we do not do anything urgent, might escalate into violence, might lead to loss of life. And we're pleading with you that
Honorable members.
allow Parliament to rediscuss each and every budget that has been presented.
Order.
So that we come back to Parliament inform the Minister of Finance properly in terms of what should happen. It's not a rule of anticipation. It's because of what we know. We were in the committees and we know that there is no man which has been allocated for free education, and we've got solutions on how such must happen. So please postpone the process today. Allow us to go back and discuss, and then we'll deal with issues from there, please.
Thank you, Honorable Boy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The African National Congress rejects this proposal. It rejected on the basis that at all stages, that since the start of the crisis, the African National Congress and its ministry and the government have been able to inform itself of exactly what is going on. But in the meantime, it's quite clear that you can't collapse government on the basis that you think that there's a crisis that is being defined by the EFF. The point is very simple. The point is very simple, is that we accept, and the minister is in a
On
process.
the point of order, Chair.
The minister is in a process.
Chair, I'm right.
Honorable member from the EFF, can you take your seat? Allow the other member, as I allowed your members to also finish their point of order.
Would I be able to get an opportunity after I finish this?
You will get later because there are other members before you, and you will respond.
Chairperson, we are still insisting that the ministry is involved in this particular process, and there's an engagement that is taking place. The MTBPS will inform the broad public, and definitely it will inform the members of parliament broadly for them. Likely in the African National Congress, we have gone through many of these reports. We have reflected, because you can't just prioritize just one area and forget about the rest. So what we are saying is that within the processes that have been created by the rules, because quite clearly that the honorable member is not even quoting any rule to be able to pinpoint to us that how do you recycle the process to benefit what is doing. Because there can be crises virtually every day. And is it how you want to run a government? And that is not possible. And it's on those bases that the African National Congress continues to say, let's allow the minister to proceed with the process, so that on the basis of information, we could be able to deal with the matter itself. It's in front of us, we are going to take it.
Thank you, Honorable Maimane.
Thank you.
By Honorable Mulder.
Thank you, House Chair. I think it's important for me to highlight the fact that on the basis of Rule 104, we complied with the appropriate time as far as the submission of the letter, etc. The fundamental issue here is that I agree, there is a protest taking place outside and South Africans are demanding answers. I believe the best form of an indicator for an answer is that let the ANC minister, who is here to table a budget, respond to the people of South Africa about what allocations he's made in the budget. So I'm asking that he comes up and answer to the people of this country as to what's happening with the Department of Education. We must allow the process to proceed so that subsequent to that, South Africans can hear, we can hear as to where this budget sits, and then subsequent to that, make our submissions to say either he's heard the students or has failed to do that. If he's failed to do that, then the students and South Africans have a right to make a response to that. But they can't if they can't hear what is to be tabled today. So can I proceed that we proceed on this basis?
Thank you, Honorable Mulder.
Honourable Chairperson, it's quite clear that the local government elections of next year has already started. We all know that there's a situation out there where students are unhappy, and we understand that, and it needs to be addressed. But Parliament, as an institution of the Constitution, cannot be blackmailed to change its program nilly-willy because specific parties feel that it's necessary to do so on a specific day. We cannot do that. The fact of the matter is, in 21 years, Parliament has not on a single occasion changed its program for that specific day because somebody thought that something is now of such urgent importance. The second thing is, there are certain things on the calendar of Parliament, like the State of the Nation address, like the budget, as well as the medium-term expenditure framework statement. Those things are fast and clear on the program of Parliament. I really suggest we are wasting people's time at this moment. We are wasting South Africa's time. Continue with the business of the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, this last member I'm recognizing, and no, I'm no more recognizing the others. We're going to go for a vote. Yes, honorable member. Yes, Honorable Member, what's your point of order?
Honorable Chair, it's not a waste of time when we talk about issues that are affecting the public out there. We as the EFF are saying that in 1976, students died.
Order. Order, honorable members.
In 1976, students died because there was an
Honorable
uncaring
members,
government.
order.
In 1976, students died because there was an undemocratic government. It can't be that in 2015, we still want to respond to a situation which is a crisis the same way. We are public officials, and we have witnessed and we have seen that out there is a boiling crisis. And it can't be that the ANC government wants to read the crisis when people have died. We have seen it in Marikana, how they respond to a situation. And we are saying that we have heard the Minister of Health saying that the Minister of Education said there is no crisis. Parties that are concerned are talking. We are saying that the situation out there is a crisis. And us as public officials can't continue to come and sit and discuss and sit as if business is normal. Business is not normal. Our point of departure must be, let us first address the crisis, the public plight out there, before we can continue the normal business of Parliament. And that is our proposal. We have made it in formal processes as the EFF, and we're saying it must be given due respect.
Order, honorable members. Thank you very much. Honorable members, let me just address all of you. Can you please take your seats?
Voorsitter, mag ek eers praat?
Honorable member, can you
Voorsitter,
take
mag
your
ek eers
seat?
praat asseblief?
Honorable
Mag ek eers
member,
praat?
can you please take your
Voorsitter, mag
seat?
ek eers praat asseblief?
Honorable
Daar's 'n
member.
krisis daar buite. Voorsitter, is erger as Marie Antoinette. Daar's massas daar buite. En jy wil hulle ignoreer. Voorsitter, daar's massas daar buite. En is erger as Marie Antoinette. U wil hulle
Order,
ignoreer.
honorable members.
Die land kan nie bekostig dat ons 'n week wag om die probleme aan te spreek nie. Ons moet dit nou aanspreek. Ons kan nie wag nie. Ons moet dit nou aanspreek. Voorsitter, hierdie probleem moet vandag aangespreek word. Die land kan nie bekostig dat ons 'n week wag om hierdie probleme aan te spreek nie. Ons moet dit vandag aanspreek. Ons spreek dit vandag aan. Dit is erger as Marie Antoinette. Die massas is daar buite by die hek. No. You can't do this. You're depriving me of my right to speak. You can't do this.
Order, honorable members. Honorable members, I deliberately decided to stop the member because I asked the member to sit down.
On a point of order.
Can I address you, Honorable Shibambo?
But which rule allows you to switch off a
Honorable
microphone?
Shibambo, can I address you?
Yes,
Can you take your seat?
but you must tell me about the rule that
Can you
allows you to
take
switch
your
off my
seat?
microphone as well.
Can you please take your seat?
Please.
Honorable members, a proposal was made by the EFF that the presentation today of the MTPPS must be postponed in order to reflect on the issue of national importance regarding the university challenge. Other members of the House from their respective parties equally rejected the proposal, and they stated the reasons why. Members of the EFF still continue to argue, albeit those rejections from other members. In order for us to proceed and put this matter to rest, I will ask that the bells are rung for 3 minutes and we vote so that we allow the minister to proceed, depending on the vote.
But House Chair. House Chair.
Can the bells be rung for 3 minutes?
House Chair. House Chair.
House
Why
Chair.
do you switch off our microphones? Allow us to deal with this issue.
Honorable members, The bells are going to be rung for 3 minutes and we vote because indeed there is no agreement.
Oh, wait.
When you come back, we start with this campaign of the paper, not now.
Yeah.
When you come back, immediately when you come back, we proceed.
When he stands up, we're going to do it. Sharp.
We don't allow the process to go. As they vote, we do paper campaign and we continue raising point of order. We must not allow that man to speak. We must not allow when.
Order, honorable members. Can all members take their seats? I would like to remind members that they may only vote from their allocated seats. When requested to do so, members must simply indicate their vote by pressing the appropriate button below the yes, no, or abstain signs. If a member inadvertently presses the wrong button, the member may thereafter press the correct button. The last button pressed will be recorded as the members' vote when the voting session is closed by the chair.
Chairperson, on order.
Order, the question before
On
the
a point of
House
order,
is
Chairperson.
the business of the day, is that the business of the day be postponed in terms
On a
of
point
Rule
of order,
97C.
Chairperson.
Are all members on their allocated seats?
On a point of order,
Voting will now
Chairperson.
commence. Those in favor of the business of the day being
On a point
postponed
of order, this is
in
not an
terms of
issue of
Rule
elections
97,
here.
subsection C,
We are
should
raising a
press
principled
yes.
issue.
Those against
It's not
should
about
press no
elections,
button.
it's about principle.
Those wishing to abstain must press the abstain button.
It's about principle.
Can
Don't
I
bulldoze
repeat
us.
if there are others who haven't heard? The question before the House is that the business of the day be
On a point of
postponed
order.
in terms of Rule 97, subsection C. Those in favor
allow us
of the
to raise a
business
point
of
of
the
order
day
here?
being postponed in terms of Rule 97, subsection C, should press the yes button. Those against should press no. Those wishing to abstain should press the abstain button. Have all members voted? Thank you. The voting session is now closed.
House Chairperson, I rise on a point.
Honorable member, you will have to wait until I announce the results. The honorable member, at that time we had already indicated that we're going to vote, and we did so. Honorable member, can you please take your seat? Voting attendance authorized to vote 400. Yes, no, 0. No, 291. Abstain, 0.
Chairperson, on order.
Chairperson.
On a point of order.
Honorable Shibambo, what is your point of order?
The questions that are subjected to a vote in terms of the rules of the National Assembly are motions, are reports, are a variety of things. The issue of matter of urgent public importance, there is no provision in the rules that says that when there's an issue of public urgent importance, must be subjected to a vote. There's no provision for that. And you are bulldozing us to engage in illegal activities. There's no rule of this House that allows you to go through the process that you have gone through now. And we called you to order before you even went there. And still you are insisting on defying the rules of this House. How are we supposed to operate if you just defy the rules like that? How are we supposed to operate?
Honorable member, thank you very much. You
There's
can
no
take your
provision
seat.
for such a thing that we've just
Honorable-
done now.
Honorable member of the EFF, Honorable Shibambo, I've heard you, but the matter we have passed on it. Honorable Khuneba,
Chairperson, it's not allowed in terms of the rules. Which rule did you apply in applying the vote now?
Honorable
How do you
Khuneba,
just vote
I
when
have
there's
now
no such a
recognized
thing?
Honorable Khuneba.
It's close.
Honorable Khuneba, can you please speak?
Honorable
Chair.
Chairperson.
On a point of order, Chair.
Honorable Maxine, can you please take your
Honorable
seat?
Chair-
You will recognize me.
Can I recognize now Honorable Khuneba? Honorable Khuneba,
Can I be recognized, Chair? I will sit down if you guaranteed me that you are going to recognize me.
I won't recognize you.
Can I talk, Chair?
Agbare voorzitter, ek sal dit oorstuur na my
Honorable-
kollega die agbare Dr. Mulder. Dankie.
Honorable Khuneba, can you please
Honorable,
speak?
Honorable Chairperson, it's the correct party, but the surname is different. Mulder is the surname. No problem.
Sorry, Honorable Mulder.
No, Honourable Chairperson, the fact of the matter is this House can vote on any matter that the House wants to vote. That's a democratic right. That's the democratic right of Parliament. Honourable Chairperson, the second point is if you want to talk about rules, the rules indicate that if there's a division in the House and you remain in the House, you are obliged to vote. The EFF did not participate in the vote. They are outside the rules of the House at this moment. Now, Chairperson, the last point is...
Order, honourable members. Honourable Shibambo, the member is still on the floor.
But there's no such a rule. Why
The
do you allow him to
member
lie
is
like that?
on the floor.
He must show us the rule.
Honourable Shibambo.
Can you show us the rule?
Honourable Shibambo.
Chairperson, let me conclude. We've taken a vote. We have wasted enough
Yes.
time. South Africa is waiting to hear what the Minister says. Please proceed with the business of the House.
Thank you very much.
Honourable Chair, on a point of
members,
order.
we now continue
point
with
of
the
order,
proceeding
Chair.
of the House.
Chair, on a point
I'll
of
now
order.
ask the Secretary to read the first and
I'm rising
second
on a point
orders
of order,
of the day.
I'm rising on a point of order.
Medium-term
Chair,
budget
I'm rising on a
policy
point of
statement.
order.
Honourable
Introduction,
Minister of Finance.
I'm rising on a point of order, Chair.
Appropriation bill.
Chair, I'm rising on a point of order.
No, order. Chairperson, order.
Honorable Speaker, Mr. President, Cabinet colleagues and Deputy Ministers, Governor of the Reserve Bank, MECs
point of
for
order, Chair.
Finance, honorable members, fellow South Africans.
On a point of order, Chair.
Honourable Maxine, can you
Honourable
please
Chair,
take
I
your
want to
seat?
start
I'm rising
by-
on a point of order, Rule 70.
Minister of Finance, continue.
Chair.
Chair, there's a point of order on the table.
Chair.
The minister must sit down and then we'll raise the point of order.
Honorable Chair, by tabling
No,
the
no,
medium-term budget
Chair,
policy statement, the
minister must
adjusted
sit down.
estimates of national expenditure,
There's a point of
and
order on
the
the
adjustment
table.
appropriation bill, and the division of revenue amendment bill for 2015,
Fees must fall.
2016.
Fees must fall. 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 Fees
Order,
must fall.
honourable members.
Fees must fall.
Given the disturbance in the House, Honourable Minister, can you take your
Fees
seat?
must fall. Fees must fall.
I will
Fees must
ask
fall. Fees must fall.
honourable members of the EFF to take your seats.
Fees must fall.
Can I please ask members of the EFF to please take your seats?
Fees must fall.
I will now ask
Fees
the
must fall.
Sergeant at Arms to
Recognize
come
us
and
first.
ask the members to leave.
Recognize us first. Fees must fall. 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 Hey, hey. Fees must fall. 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 You must recognize us, yeah. Fees must fall.
Honourable members of the EFF,
Recognize us first. We want to talk to you.
Honourable
We
Shibambo,
want to talk to you. You must
Honourable
recognize us.
Matthias,
We want to talk to you.
Honourable
We
Maxine,
want to talk to you.
Honourable Paulsen,
We want to talk to you.
Honourable Shandu,
That you must know.
Honourable Mlauzi,
Fees must fall. Fees
Honourable
must fall.
Shame,
Fees must fall.
Honourable
Fees must
Dlamini,
fall. Fees must fall.
Honourable
Fees must
Kawula,
fall. Fees must fall. Fees must
Honourable
fall.
Khoza,
Fees must fall. 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 Fees must fall.
Honourable members,
Fees must fall.
I have given you a further opportunity to comply with the directives of the chair as assisted by the Sergeant at Arms. As this conduct is now interfering with the ability of the House to conduct its business, I now call upon the Parliamentary Protection Services to assist the Sergeant at Arms to remove the members from the chamber so that the House can proceed with its business.
Fees must fall. 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 Fees must fall.
Take this one. Take this one. Take.
Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. It is indeed unfortunate that we had to come to this point, having pleaded with members to respect the points of procedures and also the business of the House. Even though members on their own expressed their view, such view was not held by the majority that this House must be adjourned. We do, as this House, and I'm sure I'm representing all of you, acknowledge the importance of the matter that our country is faced with, which the Minister of Higher Education, as well as the whole government, have been engaged with in trying to find a solution to the current issues of the university fees. I don't think a message should be communicated that this House, by not adjourning this process, belittle the matter of public concern. Members have stated categorically that they would want to hear the government position on the allocation of resources to deal with the challenges that our country faces, including higher education and its cost. And we have also agreed that members will still have an opportunity after the tabling of this important policy statement to engage with it so that if there's a need for any adjustments, those recommendations must be made and given to government, after which this House, on the 20th of November, will then approve the budget. I will now ask the Minister of Finance to continue with his presentation. Over to you, Minister.
Thank you again, Honorable Chairperson. Mr. President, Cabinet colleagues, as I've addressed you, Deputy Ministers, Governor of the Reserve Bank, MECs for Finance, honorable members, and fellow South Africans. It is indeed my privilege to present the 2015 Medium-Term Budget Policy Statement together with the Adjustments Appropriation Bill and the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill for 2015-16. Honorable members, global economic growth has slowed, commodity prices remain depressed, and unemployment has increased in many parts of the world. Growth is considerably lower in our economy than we projected in February. This is in part a consequence of the global slowdown, but it also reflects our energy constraints and structural weaknesses in our own economy. In these challenging circumstances, honorable members, we have had to revise our revenue estimates down for the period ahead. The medium-term budget policy statement outlines the tough choices we have to make and challenges us to implement our national development plan with vigor. Over the past decade, there has been substantial progress in our social and economic transformation. Minister Hadebe recently released the latest development indicators, the report on development indicators. It shows, among others, that South Africa's life expectancy increased from 52 years in 2004 to 61 in 2014. Infant mortality dropped from 58 to 34 deaths per 1,000 live births between 2002 and 2014. Over this period, the number of households living in formal dwellings increased from approximately 8 million to 12.4 million. The share of households with basic access to electricity increased from 77% to 86%. Access to water increased from 80% to 86%, and access to sanitation increased from 62% to 79%. The proportion of 5-year-old children attending early childhood development facilities has more than doubled to 87%, and adult literacy has increased to 84%. These development indicators also signal several important long-term trends in our social and economic structure, ranging from movement of people from rural areas and small towns to cities and associated changes in lifestyle and living standards. The rising use of public transport and urban amenities, increasing demand for education use of social media and access to the internet. The growing importance of service industries and tourism, and the growth of our economic links with Africa and the global economy. In reflecting on our transformation challenges, honorable members, it is clear that a new growth path is needed if we are to unleash the development potential of these structural trends. Building houses, honorable members, is not enough. We have to reshape our cities to create integrated and productive living environments. Our education and training capacity is not enough. We have to invest in quality improvements and meet new skills requirements. Our levels of investment are also not enough. We have to modernize technology and compete effectively in the global economy. Our present retirement and insurance arrangements are not enough. We need a more comprehensive approach to social security. And we also know that growth is not enough. Investment in health, nutrition, and basic living conditions are key contributors to poverty reduction, social mobility, and lower inequality. These are large themes, honorable members, and I should refrain from trespassing on territories that are supervised otherwise by my fellow colleagues in cabinet. But my point is that the proposals in our medium-term budget policy projections are only the more quantifiable instruments of our transformation. There are deeper and more profound currents. It is in the quality of our services and the integrity of our engagements that we have the most powerful levers of social change. Quality and integrity cannot be assured, as we know, by laws or ideological precepts, by sanctions or emotional appeals, as we have seen in the House. They derive from dedication, commitment, and shared values. I have in mind here, Honorable Speaker, the 2 Pakisa consultative laboratories currently underway or about to begin. One is focused on basic schooling and the other on the mining sector. One is looking at the role of technology in the classroom and the other at modernizing industrial methods and systems. But the important conversations in these laboratories are not about computer programs or mechanical tools. They are about our children and how we value their future. They are about men and women who work in arduous conditions, on whose productivity we all rely. The important conversations are about commitments, as I've said, and interdependence, about our trust in an inclusive social contract to make the future better. When times are tough, as they are now, it is that much more important that we strengthen the partnerships that put our children first, partnerships that signal our commitment to decent work, that open up participation in our economy, and that broaden access to land, skills, finance, and development opportunities. If we do not achieve growth, revenue will not increase, and if revenue does not increase, expenditure cannot be expanded. Mr. President, you have called on your cabinet to review and give impetus to our growth strategy in government, in business, in unions, and in civic formations. All of us have a part to play in building a more prosperous and sustainable future. This the MTBS projection is that the South African economy will grow at about 1.5% this year, rising marginally to 1.7% next year. 1.7% next year. This is considerably lower than at the time of the February budget, when we envisaged a 2% this year and 2.4% in 2016. The IMF has also projected a decline in growth next year, and perhaps that's where the 1.3 comes from. Electricity supply constraints, falling commodity prices, and lower confidence levels have resulted in our growth forecasts being revised lower. Investment growth will be just 1.2% this year. Limited employment growth and household income constraints are holding back consumption. Exports have grown strongly this year, which is a welcome recovery after setbacks in mining and manufacturing last year. Although exports have grown faster than imports since 2012, the current account deficit on the balance of payments is still a sizable 4.1% of GDP this year. Consumer price inflation has declined from 6.1% in 2014 to a projected 4.8% this year. Higher food prices and the weakening of the rand are expected to contribute to a rebound in inflation to around 6% a year over the period ahead. Financial market volatility is high, and capital inflows into emerging markets have slowed. This has raised borrowing rates for emerging markets globally. Though there is still a long way to go in building energy security, we are now benefiting from Eskom's enhanced maintenance efforts and our expanding renewable energy programs. The first unit of Medupi also came online, adding 800 megawatts of capacity to the grid. The Minister of Energy has invited proposals for independent coal and gas power projects. The National Treasury is working also with the Department of Energy to assess proposals and financing options for building additional nuclear power capacity. Rail capacity continues to expand alongside road, water, and telecommunication networks. Increased investment in broadband was one of the main reasons for South Africa's improved ranking in the Global Competitiveness Report to 49th place out of 140 countries. Amicable settlements have been reached this year in the coal and private security industries and for the majority of gold workers. The CCMA has become increasingly proactive in settling labor disputes thanks to the changes in the Labor Relations Act. NEDLAC is working on practical ways to avoid protracted and disruptive strikes, whilst also considering proposals at a national minimum wage. Our employment tax incentive for young work seekers continues to attract broad participation. Total claims for the incentive have amounted to 3.9 billion rands since the start of the program, up to the end of July 2015. It has been claimed by over 36,000 employers for over 250,000 workers. There has been active debate around its impact, and the ETI will be carefully assessed in due course, recognizing that all programs and incentives should be evidence-based and continuously evaluated. This will complement research by the Davis Tax Committee on the role of incentives in the corporate tax system. Honorable members, bold action is needed. Restoring the momentum of growth requires policy certainty, confidence and trust shared between government, business, workers, and households. Honorable Chairperson, strengthening our engagement with Africa and the wider Southern African region is a critical element in our growth and development strategy. Regional integration means practical collaboration in building infrastructure, investment promotion, and growing trade linkages. In order to fast-track key projects, we have introduced a project preparation and development facility for the SADC, managed by the Development Bank of Southern Africa. Feasibility studies have recently been approved for a project to improve South Africa and Zimbabwe's access to Mozambique's hydropower capacity and a major rail project to link Zambia, Angola, and the DRC. South Africa continues to use its membership of the G20 to support international cooperation in lifting growth and reducing global inequality. We welcome the detailed and wide-ranging commitments made by the global community in the 17 Sustainable Development Goals for the next 15 years and the related agreement on financing for development. Also to be welcomed is the package of measures that has been agreed to this year to counter corporate profit shifting and base erosion. South Africa has already committed to automatic exchange of financial information for tax purposes. The first exchange took place last month. Over 90 countries, including low-tax jurisdictions, have committed to exchanging information by 2018. Soon, tax evasion and aggressive tax planning will have nowhere to hide. In July this year, agreement between Brazil, Russia, China, India, and South Africa to establish a new development bank reached fruition. We will shortly respond to the NDB's opening invitation for project proposals. A special appropriation will be tabled this year to provide for the first tranche of our capital commitment to the new development bank. This 2 billion rands investment will be covered by the proceeds from the sale of government's stake in Vodacom. Honorable Chairperson, I've already indicated that our revenue estimates are adjusted down in this medium-term budget policy statement as a result of the slowdown in economic activity. Gross tax revenue is revised down by 7.6 billion rands this year and by 35 billion rands over the 3-year period. Revenue has nonetheless held up well since the 2008-9 recession. This signals both the resilience of our tax policy framework and continued strength of tax administration. Fellow South Africans, tax compliance lies at the heart of nation building and social cohesion. Without a buoyant revenue base, a nation cannot develop and succeed. Allow me, therefore, to express my appreciation to all those, whether in revenue services or on the other side of this social contract, who ensure that taxes are paid in full and on time. Over the medium term, we will continue to explore reforms that promote an efficient and progressive tax system. Recommendations of the Davis Tax Committee, already under consideration, cover, among other things, 1, profit shifting and the misuse of transfer pricing, 2, mining taxation, 3, small business taxation, and VAT and the estate duty. I've asked for further advice on wealth taxes from the Davis Tax Committee. The committee has published an instructive report on the role of the tax system in supporting inclusive growth, employment, equity, and fiscal sustainability. Allow me now to urge all stakeholders to take the opportunity to comment on these reports so that the final recommendations are well informed and thoroughly debated. There will be a further opportunity to debate the proposed design of a carbon tax when the draft bill is published for comment later this month. This forms part of a package of measures which Minister Molewa will be taking to the United Nations Climate Change Conference later this year. This package is intended to ensure that South Africa makes a fair contribution to global efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Honorable members, our central fiscal objective over the period ahead is to stabilize debt as a share of GDP. In the immediate aftermath of the 2008 recession, the budget deficit widened sharply to support our economic recovery. The deficit has since narrowed and is expected to be 3.8% of GDP this year, falling to 3% over the medium term. Following the recession, government debt increased from around 26% of GDP to 47% in March this year. Our projection is that the debt will rise by a further 600 billion rands over the next 3 years, while stabilizing as a percentage of GDP. In support of our long-term fiscal framework, the MTBPS proposes a fiscal guideline for the expenditure ceiling in the outer year of the fiscal framework. The proposal is that the spending ceiling should be linked to South Africa's long-term economic growth projections. Over the long term, this guideline maintains spending as a stable share of national income. A structural change in expenditure would have to be accompanied by corresponding revenue measures. Without economic growth, ladies and gentlemen and honorable members, revenue will not increase. And without revenue growth, expenditure cannot increase. As we have done since 2012, honorable members, the overall expenditure limit in the MTEF remains in place. If further steps are needed to protect the public finances, we will take them. We are staying the course. The main change in the fiscal framework by comparison with the February budget arises from this year's settlement of salary adjustments and benefits of public servants. The agreement provides for additional costs of 10.1% this year and improvements that will be at least 2 percentage points higher than consumer inflation in the next 2 years. The shortfall in compensation budgets is accommodated in the expenditure framework, largely by drawing down on the contingency reserve. Nonetheless, departments will need to reallocate spending from other priorities. For the period ahead, the improvement in compensation means that there is no room for expanding government employment. This is not a sustainable situation. We therefore recognize the need to improve the negotiations process and to reform public sector remuneration. Work is also underway to develop better approaches to capital project appraisal and the financing of major infrastructure investments, either as departmental initiatives or where these are undertaken by state-owned companies, municipalities, or independent investors. Well-informed selection of projects is a key step in enhancing the productivity of infrastructure services. The introduction of socio-economic impact assessment will also assist in improving coordination of government's policy choices and identifying unintended consequences earlier in the process of developing regulations and legislation. In moderating the budget deficit and stabilizing government debt, we are mindful that Eskom, Transnet, and several other state-owned companies have large borrowing requirements. Infrastructure investments by our cities, larger municipalities, and water utilities also requires access to the capital markets. Honorable members, financing of state-owned companies that are responsible for growth-enhancing infrastructure investment is one thing, but relief for entities that should be self-sustaining or that have mismanaged their commercial activities is quite another. This remains a serious risk to the medium-term fiscal outlook. Work has therefore begun on a legislative framework to regulate state-owned companies and to address their governance challenges. The main budget is the largest part of the consolidated fiscal framework over the MTEF. National departments are allocated around 47.5% of the main budget, with provinces just over 43%, municipalities coming in at 9%. And as we know, provinces account for 70% of all public service employees. They therefore have to make substantial adjustments to accommodate the increased cost of the wage agreement. To assist with adjustments, 3.8 billion rands is added to the provincial equitable share this year and a further 49 billion rands over the medium-term expenditure framework. However, this will not fully fund the shortfalls. Provinces will still have to seek further cost efficiencies in order to maintain service levels. Provinces have already taken steps to contain costs. Personnel numbers have declined by about 2% since 2012, including a reduction of over 10,000 since the start of this financial year. Provinces spending on non-essential goods and services like advertising, travel, and consultants continue their downward trend. Our initiatives to improve government efficiency are bearing fruit. Health departments, for example, have improved supply chain management procedures to reduce wastage in medicines and laboratory costs. In addition, a number of provincial public entities have been rationalized to reduce duplication of work. Budget allocations to municipalities continue to prioritize the rollout of basic services to historically disadvantaged areas. This has led to millions more households having clean water, a safe toilet, and lights to switch on in the evening. However, these services have come under stress in some areas because of poor maintenance or weak operations. While continuing to extend services where they are not provided, attention has to be given to the reliability and functionality of municipal infrastructure services. Allocations to local government continue to grow faster than the national and provincial shares. This reflects the priority placed on the basic service delivery by municipalities. Over the 2016 MTEF, allocations to municipalities amount to 351 billion rands, growing at an average of 8.2% a year. This includes provision of free basic services, eradication of infrastructure backlogs, and institutional capacity building. National Treasury has led a review of municipal infrastructure funding arrangements with a view to promote better management and maintenance of assets. Reforms to be implemented in the 2016 include rationalizing grants to reduce unnecessary administrative overlaps and improving responsiveness to social and economic needs of our citizens. The development needs of our cities remain that we must not just rely on, they demand that we do not just rely on government funds, but also bring the private sector on board. In August this year, Minister Gordon and myself hosted an urban investment partnership conference that brought together cities and private investors to explore options to create municipal infrastructure investment. In support of this, the Development Bank of Southern Africa is expanding its longer-term financing of infrastructure. We have a clear responsibility to ensure that the fragmented, racially segregated cities we inherited become dynamic, integrated sites of enterprise and improved living conditions for all. Honorable President, the key priorities of your administration remain at the center of our medium-term expenditure plans. Education and skills development account for the largest share of spending. Health services, social protection, infrastructure investment, and support for job creation are also prioritized. Government spending is set to grow at 7.2% a year over the medium term, remaining above inflation. The allocations we are proposing today are guided by the 2014 to 2019 medium-term strategic framework and its 14 outcomes. Government proposes to allocate 313 billion rands to capital spending and housing over the MTEF period, with around 165 billion rands allocated for community infrastructure. Another 229 billion rands will be transferred to municipalities for infrastructure projects. Our social assistance grant program is central to the relief of poverty and vulnerability. Approximately 16.7 million South Africans receive social grants currently. With effect from this month, the old age and war veterans and disability and care dependency grants are increased by 10 rands to bring the annual increase in line with the long-term inflation. Over the 3-year period ahead, nearly 13 billion rands will be added to social assistance budgets. Additions, continue, members. Thank you. Additions to health expenditure will further strengthen our response to HIV and AIDS and scale up interventions to address TB. Health budgets are set to grow by 8.3% from 2015-16 through to 2018-19. New resources will also be allocated to improve primary health care. Under Minister Mtswaledi's guidance, national health insurance will also be phased in, drawing on the lessons of the district pilot projects. To enhance basic education, provision of learner and teacher support materials is prioritized over the period ahead, including workbooks to over 10 million learners each year. Basic education allocations over the medium-term expenditure framework increased by 8.2% a year. Funds are allocated to enable early childhood development programs and to enroll a further 127,000 learners. Honorable members, we have been reminded this past week of the challenges of financing the expansion of further education and university opportunities. It needs to be said that disruption of learning is not constructive, neither is disruption of parliament. But Minister Nzimande has rightly indicated the need to strengthen student financing further and to find solutions where current arrangements are inadequate. And government is seized with this matter. Allocations to public employment programs over the next 3 years amount to 37 billion. This will allow the expanded public works programs to create about 6 million short-term jobs. By 2017, the community works program will exist in every municipality. Support for enterprise development over the period ahead includes 24 billion rands in tax incentives and 16 billion rands in direct funding to support industrialization. These initiatives include the Manufacturing Competitiveness Enhancement Program and the Automotive Production and Development Program. Special economic zones will also receive continued funding, including new zones in Free State and Gauteng. A review is proposed to assess the impact of fiscal incentives on economic growth, productivity, competitiveness, the balance of trade and employment. Over the next 3 years, the South African Police will strengthen the public order policing capabilities and address training gaps, including those identified by the Marikana Commission of Inquiry. The South African Human Rights Commission, the Public Protector, and the Office of the Chief Justice receives additional allocations over the MTF to address capacity challenges. Substantial additional allocations are also proposed for national and provincial roads over the period ahead. This includes a fiscal contribution for the Gauteng Freeway Improvement Project to compensate for the reduced user charge dispensation, half of which will be recovered from the province of Gauteng. Over the period ahead, there will be a strong focus on building partnerships with the private sector to boost inclusive growth and job creation in South Africa's cities. Government will continue to support municipal planning and implementation of urban development projects to catalyze spatial change. These include the Konubia and Warwick Junction projects in eThekwini, the sleeper site development in Buffalo City, and the redevelopment of Athlone Power Station in Cape Town. A revised capacity building initiative aligned to the Back to Basics strategy will be targeted at municipalities in 27 priority rural districts. And grants to rural areas continue to support municipalities to eradicate backlogs in access to services, increase mobility, and create opportunities to grow local economies. This medium-term expenditure framework will provide assistance to municipalities that will be merged after the 2016 local government elections for the administrative costs involved. Now, let me take this opportunity to remind councillors and officials that we expect financially responsible budgeting and expenditure management during the run-up to the elections. Guidance in this regard will be issued by the National Treasury. In all of these initiatives, honorable members, the quality and integrity of governance are critical elements in achieving the outcomes we seek. As this year's winner of the Nobel Prize for Economics, Professor Angus Deaton puts it, and I quote him, "The absence of the state capacity, that is, of the services and protections that people in rich countries take for granted, is one of the major causes of poverty and inequality around the world. Without effective states working with active and involved citizens, there is little chance for the growth that is needed to abolish global poverty," close quote. Honorable Speaker, alongside the medium-term budget policy statement, I'm tabling the adjustments appropriation for 2015-16 today. The salary adjustments of 1.2 billion rands for the national departments and 3.8 billion rands for the provinces is the main revision of the expenditure estimates for this year. Other significant adjustments are as follows: 720 million rands for the Department of International Relations and Cooperation to compensate for the depreciation of the rand, 1.2 billion rands in spending financed out of monies paid into the National Revenue Fund from departmental activities, 1.6 billion rands in rollovers from unspent balances in 2014-15, including delayed payments to municipalities with unresolved utility arrears. 1.1 billion rands in additional transfers of skills levy revenue to sector education and training authorities and the National Skills Fund. Further details are provided in the adjusted estimates of national expenditure. Two substantial allocations that were not provided for in this main budget in February are dealt with in the special appropriations. The first is the 23 billion rands allocation to ESCOM, which has already been enacted by this House, and the second is the 2 billion rands allocation for the new development bank. These have been financed through the sale of government shareholding in Vodacom, as I've indicated. After taking into account revised revenue estimates, the expenditure adjustments and projected savings, the main budget deficit for 2015-16 is 176.3 billion rands. And when taking into account the balance of social security funds, public entities and provinces, the projected consolidated budget deficit is 3.8% of GDP, which is slightly less than the February estimate. In the February budget speech, I emphasized the urgent need for improved efficiencies and effectiveness in public procurement. I indicated that modernization of supply chain management would target better use of technology, and since then, much has been achieved. Government's e-tender portal has already been established, providing a single point of entry to business opportunities with government. This enhances transparency and reduces the time and cost of accessing tender documents. The second one is that a central supplier database is now operational, easing the administrative burden for business and government alike. More than 20,000 suppliers have already registered, and a total of 9,500 have been verified since the 1st of September 2015. I urge all suppliers to register before the 31st of March. The database provides information on commodity prices by locality, right down to municipal ward level. The transversal contract for learner teacher support material has been completed. The highest contract price is for stationery at grade R, which is 115 rands per learner, inclusive of packaging and delivery. And the cost of other grades is below 100 rands. And we've worked with Minister Motshekga to reduce this to this level. This month, we launched a buying site for high-volume, low-value items, which is similar in design to commercial e-commerce sites. Supply chain management practitioners can now purchase routine items through the web at www.gcommerce.gov.za. A consolidated procurement bill is being developed to rationalize the more than 80 legal instruments, guidelines, and instruction notes that currently apply. A framework has also been developed to standardize public procurement reporting, supported by a training program for responsible officials. Further enhancements that support SMMEs in the area of electronic bids, quotations, and technologies will also be implemented in 2016-17. Tender documents will be made user-friendly and easy to comprehend. The number of documents needed for a tender will be reduced, and they will be customized to reflect the diversity of procurement processes. For instance, buying a filing cabinet is different from hiring an advisor or building a school. Public procurement, honorable members, is big business. The South African public sector spends over 500 billion rands a year on the procurement of goods and services. Making better use of technology is therefore important, but it is not enough. Reform of supply chain management will remain a central priority to generate short and medium-term savings, but more importantly, to bring value for money and to combat corruption. In December 2013, the National Treasury issued an instruction on cost containment measures relating to consultants, travel and subsistence, entertainment, catering, and events. We are now in a position to report on the impact of this reform. Across all national and provincial departments in the first year, a 3% decrease was achieved in spending on consultants, a 6% decrease in travel and subsistence, and a 47% decrease in catering, entertainment, and events expenditure. That was not enough. Preliminary budget data indicates that there will be further reductions in these categories of spending over the medium-term expenditure framework, contributing both to value for money and improved public service delivery. We recognize that there is not yet full compliance with these measures. The Treasury is currently revising the cost containment instruction to review thresholds and to clarify its implementation, especially on expenditure related to conferences. Honorable members, improving the quality of financial services is a key element in our strategy for inclusive growth. Weaknesses in the financial supervision played a central role in the severity of the 2008 recession and its aftermath. The bill to give effect to the Twin Peaks regulatory system has now been certified by the state law advisors, and I will be tabling it next week on the 27th, if I'm not mistaken. We've engaged with the industry and other stakeholders on the draft framework for market conduct to ensure that customers of the financial sector are treated fairly and that charges are reduced and made more transparent. I also propose to table the insurance bill before the end of the year. We have made progress in promoting savings by households through the introduction this year of the tax-free savings products. In collaboration with Minister Dlamini and Minister Wolifant, work on the social security reform proposals is at an advanced stage to accompany retirement reform. I need to emphasize the importance of providing suitable vehicles for preservation of savings and conversion into income at retirement alongside appropriate death and disability benefits. We are engaging with Labour to ensure that members of provident funds enjoy the full benefits of tax deductions for saving plans that provide an ensured income at retirement. I hope that these proposals will be prioritized for discussion in NEDLEC over the period ahead. In addition to promoting domestic savings, South Africa needs to attract substantial flows of foreign funding to ensure that investment growth can be financed. It is clearly vital that we maintain a framework of policies and programs consistent with this requirement. Under your leadership, Mr. President, and guided by our newly appointed National Planning Commission under the chairmanship of Minister Khadebe, we seek to simplify and streamline regulatory procedures to investment and ensure both policy coherence and encouragement of long-term investment and international partnerships. The Treasury's work on modernizing the management of capital flows and encouraging companies to locate in South Africa as a gateway to the rest of Africa supports this aim. Without economic growth, revenue will not increase. Without revenue growth, expenditure cannot increase. Honorable Chairperson, it is apparent that slower growth and volatility will remain features of the world economy for some time to come. In the framework set out in the 2015 medium-term budget policy statement, government has adapted to this turbulent environment through measures to maintain the health of the public finances and support the social and economic transformation that South Africa needs. To strengthen economic performance, our commitment is to bring policy coherence and certainty where it is lacking, and to give greater impetus to infrastructure investment and to address impediments that hold back enterprise development, employment, and innovation. To build the energy capacity, water and transport networks, and communication systems we need, we are mobilizing capacity of state-owned companies and the private sector alongside departmental and municipal initiatives. To ensure that public debt remains affordable, the public expenditure ceiling is maintained while protecting our flagship social and economic programs. To improve living standards and accelerate social development, we are working with municipalities to strengthen planning and concentrate investment in urban hubs and economic growth zones. More dynamic cities, new businesses, trade opportunities, and better transport systems also mean stronger linkages with the smaller towns and growing market opportunities for agriculture and rural enterprises. To enhance state capacity and the quality of integrity of governance, our financial management and procurement reforms will be reinforced while stepping up public sector training and institutional renewal. To unite South Africans behind more rapid implementation of the National Development Plan, we are working with the business sector, organized labor, social stakeholders to maintain a stable labor relations environment, improve confidence, and promote broad-based development. In concluding, I wish to thank you, Mr. President, and the Deputy President for your guidance and leadership, and all Cabinet colleagues for their understanding of the challenges that we confront. The Ministers' Committee on the Budget has energetically engaged with the issues. Deputy Minister Jonas has always been cheerful even in the toughest discussions, and the MECs for Finance share diligently in the work of overseeing our public finances. A special thanks also to the Auditor General, Mr. Kimi Makwetu, SARS Commissioner Tom Moyane, Governor Lesicha Khanyago at the Reserve Bank, the boards and executive heads of our Development Finance Institution, and the Financial and Fiscal Commission and the Financial Services Board. I greatly value the support of NEDLEC and its constituency representative, and the chairs of the Standing and Select Committees of Finance and Appropriations, Honorable Yunus Karim, Honorable Charles de Beer, Honorable Paul Mashatile, and Honorable Saiso Mohai. I'm also indebted to the Director General, Lungisa Fuzile, and the staff of the National Treasury and the Ministry for their tireless efforts. The support of my family is also an incalculable blessing. Mr. President, we're pursuing a new growth path to expand participation and adapt to the changing realities of the global landscape. And in the past, though times are tough, we can create a better future working together. Within an affordable medium-term expenditure framework, we will build a more prosperous and equal South Africa, sustaining progress even in the slow growth world and environment. As we achieve more rapid growth, our revenue outlook will improve. As revenue increases, our expenditure on public service delivery will grow. I hereby, again, as I had said at the beginning, table for consideration by this House the medium-term budget policy statement, the adjusted estimates of national expenditure, the adjusted appropriation bill, and the division of revenue amendment bill. Thank you very much. These are the documents.
Thank you very much, Minister. The medium-term budget policy statement will be referred to the Standing Committee on Finance and the Standing Committee on Appropriations to consider in accordance with their respective mandates. The revised fiscal framework will be referred to the Standing Committee on Finance for consideration and report.
House Chairperson.
Honorable members, Honorable Maimana would take your point of order now, but can I just make an announcement? Can I make an announcement before you, and then I'll allow you to speak? Thank you for your consideration. Honorable members, we request that when you leave the chamber, you make use of the side entrances. We are also requesting you to please proceed to your offices, as there are still people around the precinct. Honorable members, order, honorable members, who are trying to gain access to the precinct. So we're asking members to be in their offices until they are advised that they can leave safely. Order, honorable members. Honorable Maimane.
Thanks, Chairperson. I think noting the reality of what's taking place outside, which is the point that you've made, can I request, in fact, that the Minister of Higher Education and the President to please go address the students, because this requires leadership. And if we fail to do that, there'll be an even bigger crisis on our hands. Can I request that that be so, please, Chairperson?
Thank you, Honorable Maimane. Can you take your seat? Thank you. Order, honorable members. Order. Honorable members, thank you very much. I've noted your request, Honorable Maimane, but I'm sure it would be made appropriately to the relevant people you are advising that they undertake a particular action. Honorable members, I would like to thank you for your consideration given the incident that happened earlier in the House, and I would most likely to thank the members of the public who are in the gallery, and in particular some of our young guests the students who were here for all the time for their discipline and patience. This concludes the debate and the end of the House. The House is adjourned.